Hi, this is Dan McCourt with the ScaleForge Group, and I'm here with Bill from ArtGuard, and we're going to talk about security in asset protection. This has been a great journey for us so far in our security series. It's put us into contact with individuals who have subject matter expertise in multiple facets of security. And I'm really happy to talk to you today, Bill. And I welcome you to the podcast. I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic and how it involves ArtGuard and your work. So
Thanks,
welcome.
Dan.
Sure. Well, let's just jump right in. Uh, Tell me how ArtGuard was formed. Tell me about your journey. How did you get here?
Yeah, it was kind of coincidental. I have a semi-technical background. I've been in publishing, but I've also been in alternative energy, and so I'm not adverse to learning about and discussing technology. We I was actually having I mean, this is an interesting story. I was having a drink with a friend, a mutual friend of myself and a friend of mine, and she happens to own a gallery in New York, and the subject of security came up in the midst of this conversation, and she said, "Will you be interested to know that there are major galleries in New York that are still using marbles behind the frames?" So this was in 2005. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And kind of, my friend and I looked at each other and we said, "Well, this is pretty strange." He's an artist. He was also had a little electrical background. So we said, "Well, it can't be that hard to build something that would sound an alarm if you took a painting off the wall." I mean, that's pretty
Sure.
simple proposition. So we dug in and came up with a battery operated standalone alarm, about 4 inches high by 3 inches wide, and that emitted a 120 decibel alarm. So you screw it to the wall and you hang the painting on a pressure pin and arm the device. And if anybody lifted it, they would get a rather loud, piercing alarm. So this was all fun and games. I mean, there was a lot of early interest, and then it kind of settled into, what most entrepreneurs experience is a, very, very slow uptake in the market. There were some galleries that were picking it up, but we went to some shows, and the reaction was, "Well, this is great, but give us something wireless, give us something that will protect anything, and give us something that is 24 hours." So we can be anywhere we want to be and still get alerts, and et cetera, et cetera. So we went back I mean, we were in it deep enough at that point to,
Sure.
like, we were both doing something else, but we were in it deep enough to be intrigued by the furthering of this technology. So we came up with another patent, and it was using a magnetometer in a sensor to recognize the presence and the movement of a tiny rare earth magnet. So we patented that and came to market with it in 2015, and the rest has been a building process since then.
So that
So
was the genesis of the map system that you developed?
exactly, yeah, that was the MAP technology. MAP standing for magnetic asset protection.
Oh, fantastic. So you've been running ArtGuard as it stands now for since 2015 or before?
Yes, and my partner dropped out to pursue his art career, and I've been leading the charge. So I'm in charge of development of the product and sales and marketing and basically the message.
So I know that you're securing galleries. Are there other areas that the map system is applied besides galleries, personal protect your personal
Yeah, yeah. When you say the
property?
map system, the map system is
Oh,
is
sure.
really the map system is really a technology, and the map technology, because we
Technology.
do employ
Sure.
that in various ways. And those various ways serve the market in different manners. So yes, the technology will serve a museum, it will serve a gallery, it will serve a home, a private residence, basically any facility or institution that has art that it displays, art or valuable objects that it displays, or um, keeps on hand in some way and wants
Sure.
to protect.
So this technology then connects into a central office that is monitored, or does it just connect to the individual owner of the property?
Right. So let me go back to the ways that the map sensor can deploy. Um, we have built several systems that or created several systems based on industry current industry platforms. One being Honeywell and one being a company called Alula. Because we were meeting the kind of the DIY, the growth of the DIY
Sure.
popularity, which pretty much comes, it rises and falls depending on the various products that are in the market and how sophisticated they are, and whether or not people kind of meet their threshold and then want someone else to install it. But there's always DIY products coming into the market, and I think for the residential market that will continue to be the case. So in the smaller in the residential market, in the smaller market, we've created two DIY products. One is the map. We call it the Map Silver, and it's a audible alarm only. So
Okay.
it's really designed for grab what's termed grab and run theft,
Okay.
which was always a traditional problem in the industry. Someone just coming in and grabbing a piece off a wall in a gallery and leaving, and someone could be in the back on the, on the phone or on their computer or nowhere near the front and had no idea that something was taken. So that would alert them with a control panel that would cover essentially the whole gallery, and that also applies to museums, smaller museums mostly, but many large museums as well that are using this for a special exhibition or a show. So they can pull it out
Okay.
of the closet, put it up, and deploy it just for a 6 month show, and then take it down and redeploy it later on. So it has that kind of flexibility. The other is a
Sure.
gold system, what we call the gold system, and that is a much more full-featured system involving um, online connection via Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or 4G cellular.
Okay.
And that reports via a mobile device with text, email, push notifications, or it could generate a phone call through one of
Okay.
the major central stations in the United States. Well, and there's also an alarm on the panel that can be deployed as an option. But that is a kind of a one and done for a lot of small collectors, because they can put door sensors on there and they can put motion sensors and
Sure.
cameras as well. So it's a complete system for them. For a larger collector, and we get a lot of very, very high-end collectors using that system. It is a great set layer of protection for their art, a dedicated layer of protection, something that they can turn on and know that it's operating in the background without having any chance of compromising the main security, which is
Sure.
being turned on and off to accommodate people in the home, staff, guests, etc.
Sure.
So that's a very strong product for us in the market. Then the rest is really the map sensor, which we then sell to integrators and installers, and
Okay,
they in turn will then deploy these in large museums, in homes where people just want to add on a security device,
sure.
or any other way, any other place that there is an existing security panel and or a large access control system,
Interesting.
depending
So
on the size.
it sounds like there's a lot of applications for this. It's not just
Yeah, I mean,
limited.
it pretty much covers the market for for on one side the installer and the integrator, through the museums, some of which do their own work, and then it's the proxy sales or interest in the insurance companies, the art advisors, the art appraisers, and then on to the smaller museums and the libraries and churches and private residences. So, goes full spectrum from the installed system to the DIY.
I can definitely see individuals of high net worth having pieces. It could be a sports jersey or a signed piece of memorabilia
Could be
that they
anything.
wouldn't want. It could be anything.
Yeah, right. Could be collectibles, memorabilia, firearms, wine, collectible wine,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
antiques, jewelry, and of course any art object. And the distinguishing point about the technology is that it can protect almost anything, regardless of size.
And do you need a panel for that? Or is that, I mean,
You will always need a panel. You
okay,
will always need a panel because it communicates. The map sensor communicates through a panel, and then creates some result of a sensor triggering.
okay,
So
gotcha. And
that
then
some report, in other words.
that would then alert someone, whether it's an audible
Exactly.
noise or if it's something,
Exactly.
contact.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, challenges that you have seen. Let's talk about that a little bit because you've been in this business for a while now. And we'll talk about some of the more interesting things that have been happening over the last 5 years, but just the basic challenges that if someone had something to secure
Mhm.
and they didn't necessarily quite understand it, whether it's someone that's new to the role, has an existing uh, set of jewelry, artwork, or collectibles that needs to secure it because of threat of robbery or theft or things like that. How do you engage? How do you meet those challenges? If you just walk us all through the process a little bit, because it's a great technology, but it has to get implemented somehow.
Right. Right. I think the biggest challenge about this particular type of product is the verticality of the market.
Hmm,
It's very much of a niche market. If you consider that half the homes in the United States have security systems of some sort, whether that be a traditional system or a DIY home automation system.
sure.
They are largely deploying that for perimeter security, motion sensors, and cameras. Um, and certainly that has been largely the way in the past, the way large collectors protected their art. There were very few products in the market until we got into it that would specifically that were specifically designed to address art. I think Honeywell had a sensor that was a little bit awkward, large, and a lot of people, did it out of necessity because there was nothing else in the market. But the challenge is yes, is finding the customer.
Right.
Certainly in large museums, it's easy because they are, they have an existing need.
Sure.
And they have been covering this in various ways, and now the advent of more technologies is giving them the ability to build these into large access control systems. But a lot of my business comes from Google and from AI. People ask me
Hmm.
questions about how I protect art in my home. How I is there a security system that protects art? Is there a solution for protecting art? Blah 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 blah. So it's
Hmm.
it's it's that type of thing. It's a very hard market to get to. Otherwise, you're going to have to advertise, and that's, yeah, as you know,
Sure.
very expensive.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So I mean, and where do you advertise? Do you advertise in the home magazines, in the art magazines? I mean, that can get very expensive very
It
quickly.
adds up for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah. So
You know,
we
you make,
depend we depend on word of mouth as we
oh,
have
for
built
sure.
our place in the industry. And we have companies like Chubb have made us a preferred vendor. So
Oh,
anytime they're in contact with a customer and the issue of a security comes up, then they will recommend us. And there are other. So that's why I was talking about proxy sales. There are those groups that feel
sure.
comfortable knowing that their customers have used you and that it worked out and there were no problems, and so they're comfortable with kind of conveying that to anybody who has that need.
Sure. But this is an off the wall question, so it's
Yeah.
okay if you don't have an answer, but I just thought of it. When talking about customers, who's the customer that needs you but doesn't know they need you?
It's a very, very good question. I think this it goes to the heart of the question in of the issue in the art market. Um, it's been very, very slow to grow because people don't think they need
Hmm.
protection on their art. They think that as long as they have a good security system with perimeter security that they can turn on when they need to, when they're out of the home,
Sure.
that they can sufficiently protect everything, and they may have cameras and some other devices in the home, motion sensors, etc. So the uptake among this group has been notoriously slow. Plus, it's a very private, traditionally a very private
Oh,
market.
right.
So people don't report or publicize the fact that they've had a theft, and that goes for anybody in the market.
Okay.
So if it's in a museum, you're not going to want to publicize that because it's going to threaten your position as a caretaker of that art, and your responsibilities, your fiduciary responsibilities. Um, you're not, as a result of that, you're not going to get loans from people. You're not going to get,
Hmm.
you're going to threaten the fundraising. So it's something that, and of course a private individual wants to maintain their privacy,
Right.
and they're not going to want to expose the fact that they've lost a blue chip piece of art.
Oh, for
So
sure.
that's been a big thorn in the side of organizations like the FBI, and some of the European security
Hmm.
organizations, because they don't get that feedback from people.
Right.
Yeah, and if it does come out, it may come out later. And one of the problems with this market is that if something is stolen, it's gone within a day. It could be out of the country.
Right. And some of
Um,
these things are
it- you know,
priceless, I imagine.
yeah, and it may not come back. So,
Right.
and I think that a lot of people have thought, well, as long as I have insurance, I don't have to worry. And I don't, that's just not an answer that I understand or that many people in the market comprehend. And I've had people in high positions in banks that lend a great deal of money against art and and that art is still hanging on the wall in those homes.
Right.
It's not secured in a vault somewhere. So they it's still at risk. And I've asked these people why they don't apply some kind of security to it, just to be sure.
Sure.
And their rather common refrain is, well, as long as it's insured, we don't care. Um, which is not going to bring back that particular piece. You may find another
No.
piece like it.
Sure.
But it also begs the question about how, all the other problems that you might encounter with the insurance company, which may end up in court.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, and you may get a piece back and it's damaged or it's, and there have been plenty of works that have been destroyed in that process. So, um,
That's a question. And again, you may or may not know the answer. Do insurance companies have any riders that make this mandatory?
very, very few, very
Okay.
few. It will often be specific pieces, not collections in general. Um, Insurance companies are compromised in a way that most people don't understand, and that is that um, a client may say, "Well, I don't want to do that."
Right.
In which case, their choice is to go down the road to another company that won't um, insist on their protecting that piece of art.
Right.
So the insurance companies are a little loath to do that. Certainly will suggest and imply that it should be a part of a smart protection program for the art, which includes temperature and humidity and light and provenance and recording all the information about that piece of art. But protection is a from secu security is a very big part of that. So going back to
Interesting.
your question before, there are big publicized art thefts, a la the Louvre, and
Oh, yes.
there's always a lot of press after that. I was in a lot of articles that post that, and you get a wave of concern across the industry,
Sure.
we get a lot of inquiries, and then it subsides because people realize maybe that it's going to cost more than they thought, and they somehow justify, not having to do that. So it's a tough battle. It's a tough battle. So we try to make it as easy as possible. That's one of the things that I do,
Okay.
and that is, it is my mantra, as a matter of fact. It'll never be a lick and stick product
Sure.
because every single piece of art is different. Every uh, environment is going to be different. You can have two pieces of art right next to each other on the wall, and there's going to be a difference in how that sensor reacts in each
Yep.
piece. So,
Understood.
there is you can't take anything for granted. I would like it if you could just put the sensor on the magnet in and be done with it, but that's not the case. So it has to be put in and tested, and which should be done anyway,
Right.
and on a regular basis.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So and then working with the installers and the integrators to make sure that they understand the shortcuts and the easiest way to implement this. And the homeowner, I mean, I mean, especially the DIY systems. In fact, they are plug and play. So
Agreed.
we try to be true to that moniker as much as we possibly can.
Just changing gears. everything has changed in the last 6 or 7 years with regards to security. Every podcast that I talk through, every different facet of security that I speak to, things have changed since COVID. Things, and I know I mentioned it earlier, things get a little upside down after during COVID, and some of them things stayed that way. So can you tell me how your world has changed in securing all of the assets in with your customers since COVID, and maybe also talk about what's coming in the future with the advent of AI?
Yeah, sure. Well, COVID was an interrupter for everybody. Certainly for us, it drove prices up, so my costs of production were higher, and people were just kind of pulled back on spending a lot, waiting for this thing to to see how they emerged on the other side. So it was a big it was a big hit for us because we were on a certain ascent with the company and the recognition of the product.
Sure.
So that was that bit of a setback. And on the other side of that, the market kind of burst forth with a spate of activity technologies,
Mm,
and we still consider our object-specific protection technology as the probably the market leader because of its comprehensiveness, flexibility, and other attributes. So, if you are talking about being able to protect anything, there is really nothing out there that can compare to it. However, in terms of other security, obviously AI is the is the elephant in the room, and nobody knows where that's going.
right,
Um, yeah, one can imagine that in the art market that if you apply that to cameras and video and you merge that technology with databases of information that are increasingly um, gathering information on individuals,
right,
that the outcome of this is going to be a product that will be able to detect activity inside a home or a museum
right,
and recognize faces that may come up in some kind of record.
right. Sure. Facial recognition.
Exactly. Or odd behavior of any sort. Anything that appears to be a pattern of threat
Sure.
outside anybody approaching the facility. And I must say this is a big part of it because in the last, let's say, year and a half, there was a spate of museum thefts in particularly in France, and nobody's figured out why. Um, Basically, maybe because there were so many museums in France.
Right,
But leading up to the Louvre, which was um, consistent with that pattern of people approaching the museum with the intent on forceful break-in and violence if need be.
right.
So the Louvre was it was fairly it was fairly simple for them to um, to execute this because no one was looking, basically,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Uh, Even though they had some cameras, but the prior museum thefts, people came with hammers and sledgehammers and power tools, approached the museum with enough equipment to dismantle a car, and you know, and we're ready to, and in some cases, firearms. So how do you
Mhm.
prevent something like this? I mean,
Right.
you can't pull down the gates and close the doors and the windows, and make it a fortress. You just can't do that. Um, you might be able to in some countries, but you certainly can't in most countries.
No.
Um, so you've got to recognize that threat as it's approaching. And I think that this is it where AI will come into its own. And I think that's a very, very valuable piece of the security puzzle.
There's definitely a movement in the personal protection, as meaning a school or a soft target, um, a religious facility,
Mhm.
to have a very similar system in place right now to not have people get to the building to do whatever harm that they're trying to do. So
Yes,
this is a
yes,
common theme that we're hearing throughout the podcast with other folks who are trying to do other types of protection.
right.
So
And it will come down in price. Right now it's a little bit daunting for anybody but the largest institutions
yes,
that have big access control systems that can accommodate, a lot of cameras facing everywhere, seeing any threat, internal and external, that occurs. So, but at some point, that like all electronics, it's going to come down in price to be affordable by, by the home, by the private collector and in the home.
it's
And
getting there.
it could well be, instituted in a ring system or a home, a home automation system in the future.
Oh, for sure. And I know my partner Sarah, she's involved with the security industry, and there's already AI under development to identify an individual who's holding a handgun or holding a long gun.
Sure.
And it's about 75–80% effective right now.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
difficult. Water pistol looks a little bit different. Sorry, my Philly accent. Water pistol. But things that may resemble a firearm, they're still working through that.
Sure.
The
Sure.
industry is, of course. But I,
Yep.
I think we're not as far off as we might hope we are. I think it might be within the next 2 years we'll see some dramatic developments there.
I agree with you. I do agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. And then at that point, it'll just be refining it and making it even better. So,
Well, Bill, we've covered a lot of ground today. I think we've hit all of the key topics that we discussed prior to the call. And one thing that you made me think of, and I swear I'm listening when you're talking, but you also make some really good points that make me think about other things. Like, with all of the folks that I'm talking to, it seems like if you're thinking about security when you need it, it's too late.
exactly.
And that I think is becoming the theme of this podcast very quickly. That regardless of whether it's protecting an asset within art or a residence or people or God forbid a school, it seems like we all hope for the best until the worst happens and we wish that we did something different. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It can't happen to me attitude, as you can imagine, is fraught. So, some measure of protection, that can be employed regardless of whether it's a small institution or private home or a large institution, is just smart because, for many reasons. But if you have things that you want to protect them,
yes,
because there are means of doing that.
and there are people out there that want to do something with the things that you have.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope
unfortunately.
hope so.
Yes. Well, Bill, thank you so much for your time today. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Great, Dan. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye bye.